Yo, what up, YouTube? It's your boy Zai. You already know what time it is. But basically, this video, I'm not going to try to go into too many subjects, maybe two the most. It's because, like, these people, they leave comments, you know what I mean? And I got people as far as homies that be in my DM and they be, they still watch certain things. They say they like to keep a leg up on, what the enemy is thinking. And I find that comical, at best because anybody that, like I said, are in bad standings are not necessarily my enemy. I don't care about them, and that also ties into a question somebody had asked me, and they weren't being funny or nothing. They were just basically like, why should a grown man or really trip off whether somebody's good or not? And to answer that question, nobody really trips. To be honest, I mean, back in the days, people held a certain standard and they seen things a certain way. So, situation of that nature would have been addressed, and it would have been like it would have been no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But nowadays, nobody really trips off, and nobody's really ready to throw their life away for people that are insignificant. And it doesn't mean that there's no consequence for certain actions, because, I mean, if anything, like I said, I don't like to bring this dude's name up, but like Savage went through YouTube thinking that he was untouchable. He spoke on certain things, and at least he was smart enough to apologize, but it didn't really matter because I knew, and like I had, said in a prior video, I had told him that his demise was gonna come. Like, and people like to be like, oh, well, this and that, but it's just, when you know certain things, certain things as far as like how the outcome of certain situations will be when you've lived that life like pretty much your whole life. You know what's gonna come because it's consequence to everybody's action. But he still went through YouTube thinking that he was untouchable, and eventually he got touched. Now, there's a few other YouTubers, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna bring up their name, that continue to make certain videos of certain nature, and they pretty much go through life assuming that nothing can happen to them. But if you think about it, that's the same train of thought that dude had. Like, if any dude that's out there that's really speaking on the business that are not in good standings, like, you would think that seeing what happened to that other guy and how easy it was to reach out and touch him, that they would refrain from doing certain things, especially, and that dude was in the boondocks. So just imagine the dudes that are still in the inner cities dealing with certain things. Like, there's people around you that are not gonna like what you said, uh, and eventually want to do what they need to do to you. Like, some people take it real personal. Like, it's they've given their whole life to this, and then you got dudes that just like step on certain things as if it's insignificant because they've got away with it so far. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, I'm not gonna even touch on that no more. I'm just gonna leave it alone because at the end of the day, people could see it and see the mistakes that's being made by other people and the consequences of their mistakes, and to still assume that it's really nothing. And I get it, because it's not as like that vice grip that it was before. Like, if you really stepped out of line, certain things happen. Everybody, when they're getting money, they tend to think that they're beyond it. But that's as much I'm gonna say on that. And that's just basically the answer to the question that, dude, like, some people don't really trip off of it. They just figure it's, it comes across their, whatever, and they just feel like they need to, talk about it. Like, me personally, I don't really care, like, because a lot of these dudes, uh, they're their own worst enemies. So that's all I say about that. But what I really want to talk about is, like, like the homies. Like, you got these homies that are like in the industry and they're like doing good, man, and then and open up real doors for people that necessarily didn't have a voice as far as like in music. But then you got all these cats that had it at one time, that instead of embracing the fact that, you got somebody that looks like you and represent the same thing as you, not necessarily a gang, but just, your people in general, and yet they still hate on them. Like, it's like even the Lefty gunplay thing. I see so many people hate on this cat. Like, I get it. Some dudes might not like estilo. Allegedly, dude likes to get high and he's always like twag back. You know what I mean? But that's his life. You know what I mean? When I was busted, I seen a lot of homies that walked the yard and they were needleheads. Didn't mean that they weren't about the business or they weren't willing to do certain things. They were just needlehead. They were stuck in the cage, and they figured that was the only way to cope with it. Some dudes are not built like other people. Some people have to use other coping mechanisms, and drugs tend to be that. Unfortunately, a lot of homies that are busted get stuck doing that. I've seen youngsters that were like 18 are already needle fiends because their celly was a needle fiend, and he seen that they had money. Not every homie, not every older homie got the best intentions. I've seen a lot of them do corrupt stuff. Of course, it didn't come down to no touching or nothing, because then the yard would have went down, because that's not tolerated. That's just universal. Not even speaking the business, universal. But a lot of fools use the youngsters. Like, hey, not a lot, but there's like a few that were just grimy. They were grimy on the streets. Their homies would tell you, like, hey, that fool you don't want to hang around them. And you do your own research and then realize, the dude is solid, but he's a creep. The dude is a user, and you can tell. So you separate yourself. Unfortunately, Lefty probably got caught up in that situation. When there's a lot of stuff on the yard, people tend to bless people, but they know what they do, because once they get you hooked, they know, you're going to keep coming back. You're addicted already. And some people have addictive personalities, because there's some people that have got out and shook the habit, and there's some that are still stuck on it. But regardless of that still don't mean the homie's no good. Like, you got some fool there on the internet like, oh yeah, this dude let this buster come down and do this in his name. He didn't let him do nothing. A lot of fools, like, it's crazy. Like, you can never be sure of who you're around in certain areas. Like, even with like Palmdale and Lancaster, there's fools always coming through them junctions. They stop at these gas stations. These fools are busters, and they're on their way to something else, their family's house or whatever. And of course, they feel emboldened because they stopped in a spot that's considered Southern territory, but it's the boondocks, like, and not just like the inner parts of Lancaster and Palmdale and stuff like that, but like the very outskirts, like the outskirts of Mojave and stuff like that. So, they get a sense of empowerment. But the whole reason I'm talking about this is because it's a shame, dude. Like, like as far as like the Hispanic Chicano community has really laid a foundation that's starting to pan out. That road is already being laid, and people are starting to walk on it and being able to get real money. And even though you had pioneers as far as the fools that really put in that work, like you had Lil Rob in his time, he was the king. Like, then you had Frost, he was the king at his time, and then King Lil G, and so on and so forth. You had other cats that were doing it. You got other local cats that were more underground, but they had a good following that did it and don't use hate in order to like push their career. But nowadays you see all these fools that they're like clout chasers. There's no other word for it. It's like if you see a homie doing good and there's no real issue, you ain't got no beef with their vodka, like, or their neighborhood or whatever, and it's like you intensely going at them out of nowhere. Like, fools know, like, when you have beef, it's more than apparent. But then you see these fools, it has nothing to do with no neighborhood beef or little transgressions, because these same fools will have energy for the homie but won't have energy for the busters. Like, and them fools are winning right now. Them fools, they're all united in that whole music thing, and they're really pushing their agenda. The dude's going on Vlad. You had that one dude, then you have the other dude that went on Vlad that was doing no jumper, and it's like these dudes are really pushing and trying to go far. They're not tripping off the inner city boys. You know what I mean? As far as like going at each other, they're not even doing that. They're actually laying foundation so the next one come in, and not out of falsehood, just really trying to put theirs on. And I think the homies are making a grave mistake thinking that it will never go in their favor. Like, people get tired of it. We already have a bad name, for as far as homies for being racist and not really want to deal. You had Swifty go in there and say he wouldn't sign to a black label, and that, which is funny because his favorite rapper was Mozzie, so I was a little confused at that. And then the way his jargon was, and it's not even shot at him, but the way his jargon was, he sound black, so it's like. And then he was using the N-word, and it's like it was like contradictive to say that you wouldn't want to do this. Like, if there was solidarity with the homies, but yet you speak a certain way. Like, I mean, I was confused, but at the end of the day, like I said on Haters World, these are youngsters. It's their world. They do things a certain way, and I'm not necessarily here to get in their way, especially if they're benefiting and eating off of it. But to see homies going at it over bull, like, dude, you're in the one of you got in the door, and then not necessarily not just one, because you got Coyote. Them fools are in the door too, even though fools act as if they don't recognize them. Fools got skill, and maybe fools are upset because they feel like Lefty don't got skills like other people got, and he's taking the place of where they think they should be. I mean, that's life. Like, I be patting myself on the back all the time, like, man, I should be at this level, but it's just some people gonna like you and some people ain't. He's relatable to a lot of people, and for different reasons. Like, people are like, oh yeah, they just like him because he crash out. Well, there's a lot of crash out rappers that people like just because of that. They want to see what's gonna happen next. And it's not even to go in a circle. It's just to like really point out the thing. Like, you got to really look at yourself to be angered at the fact that somebody's coming up and you feel like they took your place. You just got to rap better. Like, there's dudes that's coming at this fool right now. They're like, oh, I'm better. But then you hear their raps and they're not, dude. You listen to their punchlines. You listen, and I'm not here to critique people's rap, but you listen to their punchlines. It's the same thing. Like, it's not even hard. Like, they make it try to sound hard because of their voice, but then you hear them rap and it's like, it's not even that, dude. There's no bars, there's no metaphors, there's no this, so you can't really tell which way they're going in their rap. There's no schemes, there's no telling a story. And even when they tell the story, some of them, it's like, it's not even a story. It's like you said two things that connect and the rest was just gibberish. It was no real story to it. But yet they're upset at the fact that they're not at the same level as Lefty Gunplay. Like, you just got to get better. You know, you're only even though this dude never uses the N-word, but yet he's able to deal with certain people. And he even said what he said as far as his daughter, but they're still messing with him. You know what I'm saying? It's just, that's how you know when people, it ain't just because you got people that got shine. They don't need him to shine, but they still deal with him because they feel there's something there. Dude is relatable in some way or another. And dudes are going to hate on that. And it's not even to get on here and just like preach for Lefty Gunplay, because I've never met the dude, but any homie that's really coming up and doing their thing and they're not using negativity as far as like disrespecting each other to try to come up, like, I'm all for that. And I'm also for the disrespect too, but just, you know, if you're going to stand on it. But I'm not with the, oh, I want to disrespect this fool just to disrespect him because this is the way to get clout. Like, I never understood that, dog. Like, that is just, you know, you always hear fools be like, oh, yeah, you know, the Morenos, this and that. But you get in the, you get a little shine and you do the same exact thing. You want to hate on each other. The West Coast have been known for that. Fools don't really want to put nobody on because they want to continue getting their shine. And they'll usually do it until you no longer shine anymore. And it's just the way it is. The East Coast used to be different. They're different now, but before they were trying to put each other on, man. You have bars they're trying to put you on because they wanted to hear it. But them fools are technical rappers. And you have some technical rappers on the West, but they're just not giving a shine because nobody really wants to hear that over here. You know what I mean? But all I'm going to say is this, man. Like, and sorry this video went so long, but if you're you know, you're a homie and you're doing your thing, man, just stay doing your thing, man. Don't hate on nobody else. Like, find ways to network. That's how, like, when we did the whole Zod Vendetta, people in their networking, fools are laying foundation for something that was greater. Unfortunately, you know, a lot of fools end up letting jealousy get the best of them, and it all fell apart. Not everybody, but, you know, some, they just couldn't do it because they were still at a level that was subpar in their lyrics, and then just mentally they were stuck in another zone, so they couldn't, they refused to work with each other, and that's on them. That's their right to do that. All I'm saying is, if you're chasing homies and disrespecting them just for clout and then go on social media and talk about it, but yet fools would rather sit down with the busters, and you know what I mean, that's just like, that's crazy to me. Like, that's crazy. That's nasty work right there. Like, you as an individual, you got to think about it. Like, you know, you willing to cross the homie. Yeah, a lot of vodkas down here don't get along, but still, this is South. You'd rather deal with a buster than to deal with a Southern. You'll do songs with them, but you won't want to do it with the homie because you feel like he's greater than you, and you don't like that. Like, That's so comical, dog. Like, no, they talk all this, oh yeah, in jail, like the solidarity, but then fools get out here and they're just like on some other bull. Like, it's like, okay, you did that in there because, you know what I mean? Like, that's why when fools be like, oh, I know the program. Nah, you don't, because if you didn't, you would keep the solidarity out here. Like, for the fools you don't get along with, you don't get along with. But for fools that you do, it ain't no issue going at them for just clout. Like, that's some high notch stuff. Like, that's why I just be like, I stay. That's why I don't be collabing with a lot of fools. I try to keep my distance. Like, and fools have reached out. Like, I won't put their names out there, but a gang of fools have reached out. Like, hey, let me get a verse, or let me hop on a song with you. Like, it would pop. Like, I'm trying to hear that because I already see what type of cat they are, so I avoid it. All I'm saying, dog, if you're a homie, or whatever, raza, whatever, you could be black. If Be solid with your own, help each other come up, and that's it. Like, it's money in this, man. Like, trying to hog the spotlight because you figure that's the only way to do it. Like, if you're on top, you're on top. The rest just got to deal with it. But hating just to, you know what I mean? Just, I don't know. Either have people get your support up, or just stay what you're doing, and maybe you'll progress. All I'm going to say is just, like that. But for the people that speak in my name, man, keep my name out your mouth, dog. Like that's just crazy. That's crazy work. Cause in person, you ain't gonna try to get it, dog. Like, we know that's a that's a loss. Like, and don't end up like that other fool. You know what I mean? That kept running his mouth until they removed him. You know what I mean? Don't be that cat. You know what I mean? Cause I'm gonna laugh. Nothing personal, but I'm just gonna laugh. With that being said, your boy Zod. Time for my kids showering. I'm out.